A Cajuns quarterback back at practice? And should the Saints be sellers at the trade deadline? We're talking about that and so much more today on the Louisiana Lunch Hour podcast. And welcome back to another edition of the Louisiana Lunch Hour podcast. Appreciate you listening in. And if you haven't already, make sure you give us a quick follow on social media as well as on Spotify or wherever you get your podcast. That way you do not miss a single solitary minute of the pod. Always great to have this for you. That way you can just enjoy it while you're eating lunch or doing whatever you're doing on this Let Me Talk to You Tuesday. And I am perplexed by this headline I saw yesterday afternoon, right around lunchtime, in fact. Conveniently, obviously, when I drop the pod on Mondays, I usually tape it the night before. Wound up having to tape it the morning of on a Monday morning because, well, you know, Festival Cartier and Creole took a lot out of me, and we are back into the grind. But I saw this headline from the sideline reporter for the Cajuns, good friend at Dawson Iserloh. He posted this on social media saying that Walker Howard will return to full practice, emphasis on full practice this week. Coach Des said that Lunch Winfield is still going to be the starter at quarterback, but they're excited to get Howard back in the mix at practice alongside Daniel Beal. Now, Des also added that Walker went to him and said he knows that Lunch is playing well right now and can't expect to be handed back the starting job, but he's just excited to be back and practicing again. Now, here's where my brain is just kind of frazzled in this. Because he suffered a torso injury that required surgery back in early September. Again, this was Labor Day weekend when he got banged up, and we did not expect him to come back until 2026. Now, either modern medicine has improved like to an incredible degree, or Walker Howard is somehow an X-Man. Like, the guy had surgery no more than about a month ago, maybe a month and a half ago. I don't remember the exact dates, but a month and a half ago, he had surgery to repair something that was going to affect his throwing rhythm. Now, again, do I expect Walker Howard to actually play down for the rest of 2025? No. But the fact that we are seeing Walker Howard back on the practice field at all in mid-October, heading into homecoming week, that is a crazy thing to think about. I don't see, Walker Howard getting the reins back unless things completely go off the rails. Like, they have to pretty much fall off the wagon very, very quickly. Simply because Lunch is so much better. Like, he looked damn good against one of the top tier Sun Belt Conference teams in JMU. I think that alone has me convinced that there's going to be no controversy here. Daniel Beal did what he could to be the QB1. The Marshall game changed everything for this team. Now, if Lunch is banged up, he gets hurt at one point during this stretch run, then yeah, absolutely, I think all bets are off. If Walker Howard can show himself to be at least semi-capable as a QB2 over Daniel Beal, it stinks for the New Iberia product, but it is what it is. It's a nature of the beast. And Walker Howard, if he's able to come back and look better, I think this Cajuns team may very well go back to him if things worsen for Lunch Winfield. Let's not forget a couple of weeks ago during that game against Marshall, whenever Lunch came in, he kind of was hobbling around. It wasn't necessarily, he was like not in a great space, but there were times where he was kind of hopping along. And I think that affected him at least somewhat in terms of the run game. He wasn't as electric as he was in that game against Marshall, but he still got the job done. He's got a hell of a cannon of an arm. So at the end of the day, I can't necessarily hate seeing Walker Howard back at practice, but at the same time, I'm like, all right, dude, what's going on here? Like, what are we doing? Like, why are you coming back? It feels like it is way, way too soon, and you're risking re-injuring your body, and more importantly, risking your pro football career potentially. Again, I feel like that may be a bridge too far, but you've got to think about your health. And I think Dez is definitely taking that into account going forward. But again, it's still one of the wildest headlines that I saw yesterday afternoon. Like right as I'm just getting back from lunch, I'm kind of checking some things with my actual job. And then I'm like, wait, what? He's back on the practice field? What is going on here? That is not what I expected to see at all on a Monday during a press conference, kind of recapping JMU and moving on to the big game homecoming this Saturday against Southern Miss. And just as a reminder to those that maybe haven't been to homecoming for a Cajuns game in a minute, if you want to get there early, because you are going to be dealing with some traffic, if there ever was any, with the homecoming parade. I think they're going to be dropping the timeline of events either today or tomorrow. So just make sure you keep an eye on social media and you see what's going on with that and plan accordingly, because heaven forbid you get stuck in traffic and you miss a moment of this massive homecoming game. It's just still crazy to think about Walker Howard out there practicing. It's just an interesting headline that we saw. And another headline that I think is worth considering has to be the New Orleans Saints. We're getting very, very close to the NFL trade deadline, which is crazy to think about. That the trade deadline is literally, we are on the cusp of that right now at this point in time. November 4th is the big day, but we're still a few weeks out. Everybody's talking about it. And there's a lot of players out there that people are interested in. Now, with the Saints, I think it's an interesting conversation that needs to be had. Is how much or who are you willing to give up in a trade to help build your war chest? It's something I kind of posited on the pod Monday, at least briefly. Because we are getting to mid-October, in a few weeks. The trade deadline will be right there. Guarantee you it'll be there like in a blink of an eye, because I can't believe we're already in October 14th mode. Like, it is literally mid-October, and it feels like just yesterday we were in mid-September. Time flies when you're having fun, and time definitely flies if you are a fan of the New Orleans Saints or just in general sports in Louisiana, because so much changes at the drop of a dime. And with that in mind, I think the Saints should absolutely consider being sellers at the trade deadline if they can get a good haul. Now, who could you get to have that haul is the real question. Because when you look at everything, the New Orleans Saints sit on something that I like to say, just the prospect of making this move is dangerous. Mainly because I think the only true player that you could probably get a king's ransom for, proverbially speaking, is Rashid Shaheed on the offensive side of the football. I think Carl Granderson could be a guy that you get something from, but I don't think you get a decent sized war chest to add to your draft. You've got, I think, 4 or 5 picks in the 2026 NFL draft. That's not going to be enough to help you kind of speed up the rebuild. Now, if we're talking, adding some second round picks, adding some day 3s that you could bundle together and move up and maybe double dip into the first round, I think that's a conversation I'm willing to have. But in terms of the guys that you could probably get rid of, I wouldn't want to get rid of Shaheed. I think if you do that, that is going to be malpractice on your franchise. I'm not going to advocate for that, but I think that's the guy that you're going to get the most bang for your buck. Because at the end of the day, the names that are definitely being bandied about is Alvin Kamara and Chris Olave. And I'll give you two reasons why I think they should do this, but I also will give you a reason why maybe they shouldn't pull the trigger on one of those guys. I'll explain why. With Alvin Kamara, he still has plenty of mud on the tires. He's been in this league for almost 10 years. So, and that is like old man when it comes to how the running back market operates. Do I think that he is worth a day two or maybe a couple day two picks or maybe get something in 2027? Because like nothing's going to be solved with one draft with this team. You have to kind of figure out everything else you got going on. You have to literally rebuild everything. It's going to take at least one, if not two drafts if you're the New Orleans Saints. I think that's the one reason why I wouldn't do that. But the Saints need to start to figure out life post Alvin Kamara. Because again, he's not getting any younger. And if you can get something like a second or third round pick, take it. Run with it. It's going to be beneficial to you. Is there a true RB1 in that room that you are 100% certain that's going to be the guy that's going to take this team to that next level like Alvin Kamara did back in 2017 when you got rid of Adrian Peterson and Alvin Kamara took over, and that pretty much changed that franchise's fortunes for 2 or 3 years? That gave an extended lease on life to not only Sean Payton, but to Drew Brees' career and a chance to kind of solidify his legacy with a second Super Bowl that he did not get. You have to think that that's probably one of your pieces to get you at least 2, if not 3 solid draft picks. Because at the end of the day, it'd be great to get some players, but I think you've got some guys that you want to see how they develop over the course of their first deal, namely Kendre Miller. Kendre Miller has looked good. I feel like it just hasn't been consistent. We didn't see a whole lot of great offensive production by the running backs on Sunday against the Patriots. But I feel like that was more just stuff happens. I'm not willing to back down on the idea that Kendre Miller should be the guy going forward. I'd be willing to trade out the Kamara to see what I truly have in Kendre. And if I need to, I could go snag somebody up in free agency to be that backup, maybe be more of a dump truck and let Kendre Miller be what Alvin Kamara was early on in his career. I think that could be a very beneficial thing. Of course, you got the Taysom Hill situation in there as well. Then you got Chris Olave, who I think you could get something out of in terms of draft picks, but there are going to be so many teams. I would not be surprised if there's 10 or 12 teams in the NFL that would not want him, mainly because of the injury bug that he's been dealing with. All those medicine balls he was dealing with from Derek Carr, the concussions he's dealt with, and it feels like to a certain extent he seems to be checked out already. Again, I think he has had potential to be a lot like Michael Thomas. Again, an Ohio State guy who the Saints have somehow have had, like, it's almost a fetish how much they've loved seeing guys from Ohio State University and drafting them. They just have had it, like, it's almost perverse the amount of love they have had for those guys versus players from LSU that could have gone through that franchise and helped a ton. I can't think of too many Ohio State guys beyond Michael Thomas and Marshawn Lattimore that really gave you anything. Chris Olave had so much potential, but it was wasted on the Derek Carr years and his injuries. He keeps getting hurt. And more often than not, I guarantee you there's NFL franchises that will be like, okay, we'd be willing to take him, but you're not going to get everything that you want to get out of him. You're not going to get everything that you feel like you deserve if you're the New Orleans Saints from a trade with Chris Olave. I feel like maybe you get some day 3 picks, maybe one at best, and that's not what you want to see. You want to see value for the guys you're getting if you are willing to be sellers at the trade deadline. I think Carl Granderson is another guy on the defensive side of the football that you could get more out of versus Chris Olave. And honestly, a lot of players that the Saints have, they can get something out of. But I say, in terms of guys I would not want to trade, I brought up Alvin Kamara's name. I just feel like Kamara wants to be a Saint for life, and I feel like the Saints want to honor that. And I think Kamara's got maybe 1 or 2 good years left in him. And it's just because of age. Cam Jordan, he's probably be done after this season, if not giving it potentially one more go, because he's been, relatively healthy throughout his career. And I'm going to knock on wood on that note. So you've got those 2 guys. I think Rashid Shaheed should not be traded at all. I saw somebody bring that up, and I'll say it till the cows come home, that would be complete malpractice as a general manager, getting rid of one of the most explosive players that you have. I understand that you'd probably wind up getting, a second round pick, a couple thirds, and some day 3s on the side. I would not entertain those offers because that is going to hurt you so much more because you don't have that impact player that brings the boom every single time. Give me some impact players. Give me some guys that are absolute beasts at wide receiver. Spencer Rattler, he's shown himself to be better as the season has progressed. But if he doesn't have weapons to throw to, how can he continue to be improving? How can he get better? That's my biggest question with this Saints team. Yes, you could probably trade these guys and get some decent pieces to help you get through the rest of the 2025 season. But I'm looking more towards 2026, 2027, because you have a chance, I think, with one decent draft class in 2026 and then a really good draft class in 2027 to do something special. Is Spencer Rattler the 100% answer at the quarterback position? I don't necessarily think so, but I'm not sold at all on this draft class so far in 2026. A lot of the guys that we were talking about in preseason, Arch Manning, Garrett Nussmeier, even Lenora Sellers, I'm not sold on any of them being a face of a franchise in the NFL. It's not a great QB class. It's starting to kind of show that. It seemed like a good one on paper, but it feels like 2027 may be the move going forward. Appreciate you listening in to the Louisiana Lunch Hour podcast. Make sure you go check us out on social media or wherever you get your podcast. Give us a follow and also subscribe to us on YouTube. We're trying to build that thing with some exclusive content as well on there. Until next time, we'll talk to you tomorrow. You've been listening to the Louisiana Lunch Hour podcast.